Elder brother Ian is an iconic figure. Trevor Chappell is also a test cricketer. Do you think, Greg, this atmosphere at home helped you to become a legend?
As was the cricket we played in the backyard. I mean, they were real test matches. In our mind, they were real test matches. We were making decisions in real time. And the other thing that I know is that the best players, many of whom I've met, from Sir Donald Bradman onwards, they've all got a great imagination. They can see how they make runs. No matter what the situation, no matter what the conditions, they can see how they make the runs, and then they put that into action. And that imagination, my imagination, was developed in the backyard at home.
Did you learn anything from the captain Ian Chappell, or do you think that you have Ian is the best captain that you have played under?
No doubt. Yeah, I mean, probably the best captain I've seen, and that's difficult because I grew up in the next bedroom, so I can't I can't claim to be unbiased.
Yeah.
But again, because of our father, I mean, the things that he instilled in us from a very early age, about reading the game and reading players and how to play the game. And our grandfather did have some influence there, because I know he spoke to Ian about captaincy particularly. We were lucky to play under good captains before. Les Favell here in South Australia was a very aggressive captain. And captains who wanted to lead the game and get out and try and win the game from the first ball. And that was the way Ian captained teams. And as a leader of men, he was exceptional.
And I was there in that function when Chappell Stand was inaugurated at the Adelaide Oval. So it was definitely a very proud moment, because you spend a lot of time from your childhood days in this particular ground, and Gene Chappell, Greg Chappell, Ian Chappell, and Trevor Chappell were all there to inaugurate the stand. So how does it feel?
Oh, again, it's with great pride that I walk into the Adelaide Oval these days and see the name up on the stand, because it's been a big part of our lives.
Yeah.
From pretty much as long as I can remember. I mean, my mother tells me that I was at the Adelaide Oval virtually from the time I was born. I mean, she was taking us to the Oval regularly to watch cricket, and not her father had finished, our grandfather had finished playing by that stage, but he was also commentating by then. So it was a big part of our early life, and it's been a big part of our life, and I still get a thrill walking through the gates at Adelaide Oval. And it's added to by seeing the Chappell name up there and realising that the recognition that we represented our state and our country with distinction. And I think it's a wonderful recognition for our parents, as much as for the three of us, for what they did, for the sacrifices they made to ensure that we got opportunities to be the best that we could be at our in our sporting life. And I can't imagine that there are two other parents that have had a more successful career as bringing cricketers into the world. There's a few families in Pakistan, obviously, where they've been.
Anip Muhammad.
The Muhammad family, obviously, three brothers played for Pakistan, but not many families have had that distinction, and particularly with Mum's father having played as well. It's wonderful recognition, and to realise that the Chappell Stand is one side and the Victor Richardson gates are the other side, sort of looking towards each other, is also a great thrill.
How is life in absence of Mother Jean?
Yeah, it's a different world without both our parents, but Mum was a big part of our lives, and she derived a great deal of satisfaction out of seeing us do well, but bringing up our families as well. She loved our families and the extended families that came from it. So she was a very important part in our lives. So we obviously miss her, but we think of her fondly. Her ashes are spread with our father in the gardens just by the Victor Richardson gates. So every time I come to Adelaide, or now that I'm back in Adelaide, every time I go to the Adelaide Oval, we go up and just pay a little bit of homage to the family, and it's wonderful to see the garden prospering.
Okay.
A little bit of friction is obviously a good thing.
Good thing. And Ian Chappell, Greg Chappell, Trevor Chappell, is it a tradition of the family that you are so close, you love each other like anything? I mean, is it a tradition? How it has developed?
No, look, I don't think it's something that we've sort of had to work at. It's just organically happened that way. It's quite ironic that there's almost 5 years age gap between Ian and I. There's nearly five between Trevor and I. So for a lot of our early life, we were only children in the sense that the older brother was off doing other things.
Yeah.
In the first few years of my life, Ian was at school.
Yeah.
The first few years of Trevor's life, I was at school. So we were home alone with our mother. And Ian, before we came along, had 5 years with our mother and our father to himself. And therefore, we didn't play any junior cricket together. We only played cricket together as adults because of that age gap. So, I think it's something that's just, it's grown. We like each other, that's important. And we have similar interests, not least of all our sport and, our families. We have an interest in in everybody's family, and, we speak regularly. I mean, I would speak to both of them pretty much every week. We all live in different towns now because I'm back in Adelaide. Ian's in Sydney and Trevor's moved to northern New South Wales. So we're spread around the country, but we catch up as often as we can. Less so these days because we're not travelling quite as much as we once were. But we would speak on the phone at least once a week.
Your article on Virat Kohli, especially after the India-Pakistan match, where you have said that you have seen the God's music in Virat's batting, and such praise have not been heard recently about Virat's batting. Do you think that he has got back his touch, or what are the specialities of this particular innings?
Well, we'll talk about the innings first of all. I mean, I've seen some amazing hitting in 2020 cricket, but I haven't seen a lot of amazing batting in 2020 cricket. That was batting. It was pure batting. There was a bit of elevation in a few of the shots, no doubt. To be able to hit sixes, you have to hit the ball in the air, but it was a skillful batsman's innings. And, I don't think many people could have played an innings like that. And I think it legitimised 2020 cricket more than any other innings that I've seen. Only a few batsmen can be big hitters because you have to have a bit of power and,
timing as well.
Timing as well. The modern bat certainly makes it different, no doubt. More people can hit the ball further than previously. But what he didn't take power, didn't take strength, it took great skill. And that, to me, was what I enjoyed most about it, was the batsmanship that was involved in it. Because a lot of the early part of the innings was hitting the gaps and running hard. And it was only towards the end, the turning point was Ralph's over, probably where he hit the one back down the ground and then the one over short fine leg for six. That was really the turning point in the game for me. But outside of that, it was pure batsmanship, and very few people could play an innings of that note. And it was fabulous that the person who's been one of the greatest supporters of Test cricket in recent times and played some of the best Test innings in recent times is the one that, to me, turned 2020 cricket on its head and proved that it is still a format of cricket as much as of power. And I got a great deal of joy out of watching it. I never thought that he'd lost his touch. He may have lost his way mentally for a little while, and we all do that. I mean, making runs at the top level is hard work, and it takes a lot of discipline and a lot of hard work. And as you get older, as I wrote in the article, I remember Sachin asking me, why does batting get harder? Surely it should get easier. I said, no, the more you understand, the more you realise how hard it is. And as you mature in life, people get more conservative. The same happens in sport.
Yeah.
And if you want to bat like you did as a young player, you have to think like you did as a young player. And I think one of the turning points in a cricketer's life, in anyone's life, is when they start having children. And it's hard enough to build or keep a relationship going with an adult when you're away from home for long periods. It's impossible to build a relationship with a child from long distance, and that's when the heartstrings really start to get pulled as a sportsman. And I think that's been part of Virat's problem, is that for the first time in his life, he's been pulled away from cricket. Up to that point, I think he could, no matter what was happening in his life, he walks on the cricket field, everything else falls away. I think he's found it hard to do that since the birth of their daughter. And the beauty of the T20 innings was that it was about an hour. In a test match, you might have to do that for 2 hours in a session and 3 or 4 hours in a day. That takes a lot of discipline and a lot of mental hard work. And you get to a point in your life where you start to wonder whether you're prepared to put that effort in, day out. And so he's adjusting. He'll make a lot more runs in Test cricket, don't you worry.
Beautiful. And now I've got a question that, do you regret that, T20 was not there in your prime time?
I never look backwards. I mean, I've never thought about it, to be honest. But had T20 been there, I would have enjoyed it. When one day cricket came in, it took my batting to a different level because I started to realise that you could, hit the ball, take a few more risks without necessarily, giving too much of the odds to the bowling team. I would have enjoyed T20 cricket with these bats, not with our bats.
That's a very good point.
If you put our bats in the dressing room for a T20 match and said you've got a choice between these and those,
they will not take.
They're not taking those.
Okay.
Because you can't play the shots. A middle shot with our bat would probably go as far as the modern bat. But if you missed the middle, they weren't going out of the circle, let alone out of the ground.
Tell us something about your own family, because Judith was a beauty.
She is a beauty.
Oh yeah, in her prime, and you fell in love and got married, isn't it?
Yeah.
And after that?
Well, we had 3 beautiful children, and they've gone on and had children of their own. We're grandparents 3 times over, and loving that phase of our lives. And the 2 older ones we've had a lot of time with in the last 8 years, and now with our youngest grandson here in Adelaide, we'll spend some enjoyable years with him in our declining years. But we're very lucky. 3 adult children and 3 grandchildren, so they're all doing their own thing, and they've been successful in their own lives. They're happy and they're healthy. That's all you can ask as a parent. You point them in the right direction and hope that they've taken some guidance along the way. We're proud of our 3 kids, and we just absolutely adore our 3 grandchildren.
One lovely thing is that Ian is a good writer. You are a brilliant writer, and your handwriting is fantastic. As I was telling Saurabh these days, that his handwriting. How could you develop this along with the perfection of being a cricketer?
It's not something I've necessarily tried to do. It's a little bit like people say to me, "Oh, you had such a wonderful technique." I never thought about technique. It was the outcome of my build, my personality, and my intent. And I think it's the same with the writing and everything.
But it's a skill, isn't it?
It is a skill.
And how did you acquire this? While reading? Because you are a vociferous reader, I know for sure. Yes.
Yeah, reading has been a very important part of it, and I've enjoyed reading good writing. So when I write, I try and write good writing, and try and write in an interesting way. But again, I think it's an expression of my personality. It's not something that I, have consciously worked at. Well, that's not true. I have consciously worked at it, but I don't spend a lot of time working at it. But I try and write in a way that I would like to read.
There are 2 gods in our mythology. One is Ma Lakshmi, who gives you money. And
I lost her a long time ago.
Oh my God! Great. And another is Ma Saraswati, goddess of learning. I think it has come on you, isn't it? Because that is a superb piece in Sydney Morning Herald, and whatever little comes out from your pen and it reaches India, we all, the good readers, always try to pick that out. That's what I'm saying. The Master Saraswati has come onto your pen.
Yeah, well, I'm grateful, and I appreciate the fact that people enjoy reading it, because I enjoy writing when I write. It doesn't come easily, because I'm not writing every day. So, when I'm writing regularly, it's a little bit easier. It flows a bit more, but I have to work at it when I'm not writing consistently, because it's it is a skill, and it takes a little bit of effort, but. I think, again, I'm still very interested in learning. I still read a lot to learn. Most of it is for education rather than entertainment, because I'm interested in a lot of things. So hopefully that has helped me when it comes to writing, because I've got a fair foundation of information that I've taken in over 74 years.